Hi, so I'm an educator in China, and so when our activity said to do a video on a policy that changed the way that students and instructors teach and learn, the biggest policy or law that came into my mind was the double reduction policy, or as it was formerly called, opinions on lessening the burden of homework and after school care programs for students. So first, let's look at what exactly double reduction policy actually means. What is the definition of it? So, so what I found to be the most useful website and news article was in Magnifier and cne.edu. And they define double reduction as it refers to a reduction in the total amount and time of commitment required by school homework and a reduction in the burden of off campus or after school training programs with the aim of reducing the burden on students and parents. Wow. So, what exactly did that mean for the schools and institutions? Well, first and foremost, the most important part of double reduction policy was that it drastically reduced the amount of time that teachers could give for homework every night. So, for first and second grade, they can have zero written homework. For third through sixth grade, they can only have 1 hour of written homework. And for junior high and middle school, they could only have 1 hour and a half, 90 minutes total every day. So this drastically changed how teachers were teaching in the classroom because before, believe me, the students here in China were spending until 10 p.m. or even midnight finishing their homework assignments. So this was the first and most important part of this policy was that homework needed to be basically taken out for the small children, and for the older kids it was not as important anymore. And this was to alleviate the burden from parents as well. And so how is this going to look? Well, the second part of the policy was to make their after school programs in the school for students to be able to finish their homework. So let's look at it here. So in the second paragraph, you'll see that this is actually where you get the meat of how the educators were going to be able to understand and facilitate the students being able to finish on time that 1 hour piece. So what it ended up looking like was that teachers had to collaborate and talk about what day they were going to stay after school and watch students basically do their homework. Because the majority of students, their parents are still working until about 6 p.m. So what that ended up looking like was that school would end around 4 or 5, and students would stay in the classroom at the school until 6 p.m. with one teacher just watching over them. So for me, this was actually the most obvious thing that double reduction policy did because last year I worked in the public schools, and I could see actually how the after school programs were working and how the students were testing. I think it doesn't really say that first and second grade didn't take tests, but they kind of really didn't do so many evaluations, or it wasn't really graded against them the year that I was teaching in the public school. And teachers were a lot more stressed out for the most part. Now, there was another part of double reduction policy that affected more of the training schools, and let's look at that too. Yeah, so there was a huge business going around in China where they could give students perfect scores if they went to these after school training centers. And so the government said no more. So they stopped giving them business license. Training centers had to be considered nonprofit. They couldn't go public on the stock exchange, and as well they can't do online classes for more than 30 minutes, and they can't do holidays, which means they can't work on the weekends. So basically, that was the end of training centers as we know it. They're still around, but we don't really know for how much longer until the government finally says no more. So that's my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you can get a better understanding of what double reduction policy actually means. Thank you. Bye bye.